Three Fires Confederacy, the Ottawa, Potawatomi, and Ojibwe. The Lenape also inhabited these lands at the time of the written treaties. We also acknowledge the Indigenous peoples who traveled these lands before the written treaties. Today, Chatham-Kent neighbors of the Lenape at Elnapawi, Lackaweet, also called Delaware Nation at Moraviantown, and the unceded territory of Bakajwanong, Wapua Island First Nation. Chatham-Kent continues to be home to diverse First Nation, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Chatham-Kent is covered by Treaty 2, the Detroit Treaty of 1790, Treaty 7, Sombre Township Treaty of 1796, and Treaty 25, Longwoods Treaty of 1822. We also recognize that this region is subject to the earlier wampum agreements like the two-row wampum and the dish with one spoon wampum. As beneficiaries of the treaties, we recognize our responsibilities, including our collective responsibilities to the land and water. Mr. Mayor, we do not have a supplementary agenda this evening. Rules for decorum at a council meeting. The municipality of Chatham-Kent supports open meetings that welcome debate of public policy issues and an atmosphere of inclusiveness, integrity, civility, fairness, and respect for differing points of view. Anyone conducting themselves in a way that disturbs, disrupts, or impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting, interrupts or makes derogatory statement or hate speech, defamatory comments about councillors, staff, speakers, or fellow members of the public may result in removal from the premises. This also applies to deputations. We ask that you do not approach members of council if they are seated in their council seats. The public, unless invited, is not permitted to come into the gated horseshoe area. The use of posters, signage, and literature is also prohibited. Mr. Mayor, we have Councillor MacDonald has expressed her regrets for this evening, and virtually participating we have Councillor Story, Councillor Crew, Councillor Bondi, and Councillor Doyle. There were no disclosures of pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, for open session agenda items. We'll now move on to the recognition. This evening we have the artist feature of War Artist, and we would like to welcome Mary Baruth to the podium.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, community members, and colleagues. For those of you who do not know me yet, I'm Mary Baruth, Manager, Arts and Culture for Chatham-Kent. November is the time we remember our fallen heroes and those who have served or are serving in the Canadian Forces, both at home and abroad. Art in Council Chambers this month features War Art, a piece from the collection of the Thames Art Gallery and the uniform of Private Stanley Burke, born and raised in Blenheim. Private Burke of the Blenheim Company of the 24th Kent Regiment worked at Dominion Canners before he joined the 186th Battalion in April 1916. After nearly a year of training at Camp Borden and in Chatham, the 186th sailed to England in the SS Lapland. Once in England, Burke was transferred to the 18th Canadian Infantry, the unit where his brother Harvey also served. Arriving in France in August 1917, he fought at the Battle of Lens that very month. On November 13th, he was in the trenches of Passchendaele and was injured. After treatment in a field hospital, he was sent back into battle and was later selected as a dispatch runner for his company, where those duties ended August 17th, 1918, when a bullet struck his right knee. Private Burke recovered and remained in England for the remainder of the war. The efforts of Private Burke and that of all Canadian soldiers at the front went largely unrecorded during the first 2 years of the war. British High Command had forbidden frontline soldiers from bringing cameras into the trenches, and while some Canadians clandestinely snapped pictures using handheld Kodaks, there remained huge gaps in the photographic record of early battles of the First World War. In 1916, Canada's first official war art program, the Canadian War Memorials Fund, was established by Lord Beaverbrook, a Canadian-born businessman and press baron. The Canadian War Records Office sent photographers, artists, and cinematographers into the field to document the actions of Canadian soldiers, creating one of the first large-scale government-sponsored war art initiatives in the world. Canadians A.Y. Jackson, Frank Johnson, Arthur Lismer, Frank Varley, all who later became members of the Group of Seven, were among those commissioned as honorary war artists. Works and sketches were not displayed publicly until after the war. And while many of the works illustrated the machines of war and shattered landscapes, few artists were able to capture the horror of the struggle or death of soldiers. From our own Thames Art Gallery is Poppies, a contemporary piece by Margaret Bigley illustrating the beauty of poppies in vibrant color. And it's a reminder of the poppy we all wear today. Poppy pins were inspired by John McCrae's poem, In Flanders Fields. Madame Guérin of France created and sold fabric poppies to raise funds after the First World War to help rebuild France. Later, she reached out beyond France to allies and organizations, including the Great War Veterans Association, predecessor to the Royal Canadian Legion. On July 6, 1921, in Port Arthur, now Thunder Bay, Ontario, the poppy pin was adopted as a symbol of remembrance. Millions of Canadians now wear the Legion's lapel poppy each November as a reminder of that little red flower that remained strong throughout the war and as a reminder of those who made the ultimate sacrifice. This week, the Capitol Theatre, the Chatham-Kent Museum, and Thames Art Gallery will come together to help people of all ages to remember. 2 showings of Billy Bishop Goes to War are taking place at the Capitol Theatre on Friday, November 7th. The first show presented to over 1,100 students, made possible by a grant from the Chatham-Kent Community Foundation, and a ticketed second show taking place that night at 7 p.m. Billy Bishop was a recipient of the Victoria Cross and a Canadian Flying Ace from the First World War. During World War II, he became the first Air Marshal in the RCAF. Nearly 70 years after his death, he remains one of Canada's most revered military figures. Veterans Affairs Canada have provided postcards featuring In Flanders Fields in 7 different languages for students to write a note to a veteran. Cards will be collected this Friday, November 7th, and distributed to veterans at area cenotaphs and throughout Canada. Please join us if you are able this Friday evening for the show or to write a card. Remember Private Burke, the war artists, veterans, our fallen, and indeed all members of the Canadian Armed Forces, present and past. We will remember them. Thank you.
Thank you. The next recognition this evening is a recognition of Library and Employment and Social Services staff for being panelists at the MetLib conference. And I'd like to welcome up Heidi Wyma and Matt Keach.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Heidi Wyma, CEO and Chief Librarian for Chatham-Kent Public Library. And I'll let you introduce yourself.
I am Matt Keach, Program Manager with Employment and Social Services.
Thank you. So tonight, I'm honored to bring forward a moment of recognition that speaks to the heart of what libraries mean to our communities. Last month, the Toronto Public Library hosted the annual MetLib conference. This is an international gathering of public library professionals from around the globe. This year's theme was From Isolation to Social Connection, about libraries and well-being. It focused on how libraries can help address one of the most pressing challenges of our time, which is the growing crisis of loneliness and social isolation. The conference welcomed participants from across the globe, from Italy, Germany, France, Colombia, New York, San Francisco, Edmonton, Milton, Vaughan, London, Ontario, and proudly from Chatham-Kent. Chatham-Kent Public Library and Employment and Social Services, our community navigators, were invited to present as keynote panelists alongside the Canadian Institute for Social Prescribing. This is a direct result of our ongoing partnerships with the Chatham-Kent Ontario Health Team. Their presentation explored the role that public libraries play in supporting community well-being through social prescribing. This is a healthcare approach that connects individuals to non-medical community resources and activities to improve their health and quality of life. Social prescribing recognizes that many health challenges are shaped by social factors like loneliness and lack of engagement with the community. Public libraries, as trusted community anchors, are uniquely positioned to help address these issues. Here in Chatham-Kent, our public library staff and our community navigators working directly in our libraries are making these connections every day, helping residents find meaningful activities, services, and relationships that support their well-being. On behalf of the municipality of Chatham-Kent, I would like to call up Erin Auger and Sarah Hart from the Chatham-Kent Public Library, Sarah Hart-Coatsworth, sorry, and Cami Moore and Kelly Bowers from the Employment and Social Services Community Navigator Program. So on behalf of the municipality of Chatham-Kent, I would like to extend our heartfelt appreciation to our keynote presenters at the conference, and also to all library staff and community navigators. You are helping to build a more connected, compassionate, and resilient Chatham-Kent. Thank you for representing our community with excellence and for continuing to make a difference every day. Thank you.
The next recognition this evening is recognition of Aaron Dickinson for being the recipient of the 2025 Building Bridges Award for the Wallaceburg Business Excellence Awards. Matt?
Thank you. It is my honor to recognize Aaron Dickinson as the recipient of the Wallaceburg Chamber of Commerce's 2025 Building Bridges Award. As part of Council's priorities for the 2022 to 2026 term, we are committed to advancing diversity, equity, inclusion and justice, and truth and reconciliation. These values are also embedded in our corporate DEIJ strategy for 2023 to 2027, which highlights healing, justice, and reconciliation as key areas of focus. The Employment and Social Services team has embraced these priorities, working diligently to ensure the municipality meets its responsibilities, contributes to pathways of justice and healing, and delivers services that reflect the needs of our Indigenous community members. One example of this commitment is the team's partnership with Walpole Island First Nation to deliver the CK Jobs Foundations of Work customer service training program. This initiative supports Indigenous job seekers in developing the skills that they need to obtain and retain meaningful employment. As our program trainer, Aaron has been at the heart of this partnership. In both 2024 and 2025, Aaron has facilitated the 5-week Foundations of Work training program at Walpole Island. Aaron and the CK Jobs team tailored the curriculum to include presentations by Walpole Island service providers, as well as culturally relevant teachings such as the 7 grandfathered teachings, which were delivered by Indigenous knowledge keepers. In recognition of Aaron's dedication and impact, the Walpole Island First Nation Employment and Training Team nominated and selected Aaron for the Building Bridges Award. This award honors individuals who actively pursue truth and reconciliation, demonstrate a commitment to building stronger relationships with First Nations communities, and support the hiring of Indigenous peoples. Aaron will receive the award at Friday's Wallaceburg of Chamber of Commerce Business Excellence event. On behalf of the municipality of Chatham-Kent, Aaron, I extend congratulations and sincere appreciation to you for this well-deserved recognition. I also want to acknowledge Council through your policies and all employment and social service staff through their work each and every day for contributing towards healing, justice, and reconciliation in our community. Please join me in congratulating Aaron for receiving this award.
We'll now move on to the deputations this evening. We received 13 deputations. 2 of them were email with regards to item 17A, the motion of Councillor Finn regarding unwilling host for the IESO wind energy procurements in Chatham-Kent. The first one was from Robert Apers, and the second one was from SWEBTFG. Those were both shared with Council today. We have no deputations on the Zoom call, and the remainder of the deputations are present this evening. And I'll remind all speakers that you'll have a maximum of 5 minutes. The timer is on the screen. We'll start with the report of 16A, the Encampment Advisory Committee, terms of reference. Claire McDowell is our first speaker, and on deck is Larry Hutchins.
Mayor Caniff and members of council, I doubt it's a surprise that I'm here tonight regarding the draft terms or the terms of reference for the Encampment Advisory Committee. As you know, I'm the co-chair of the Northside Neighbours Association. We represent most of the homes around the PUC, and from the beginning, our association, along with the Tecumseh Park Neighbourhood Association, have simply asked to be heard, respected, and to have our concerns recognized equally with those who speak for the unhoused. As you recall, this committee was born out of community frustration from residents and businesses directly impacted by encampments who had been ignored or blindsided by decisions. The EAC was meant to prevent any more surprises like the ones that we experienced and to try to balance the scale with those who already have the ear of administration. Council understood that when you voted unanimously to create the EAC. So we understand that the terms of reference are being supported by Council likely, so will be passed tonight without debate. However, we feel that it is important to share our concerns up front before the committee is established. Perhaps we will be proved wrong, but our experience tells us otherwise. We feel the TOR are vague and fall short of what Council promised and what the community expects, as they do not affirm the rights of residents, families, and business owners to safety, security, and also the protection of children in public spaces. The stated purpose in the TOR is simply facilitating transparent communication between stakeholders, but that is not enough. We don't need another forum for talking at each other. We ask to be able to review, revise, facilitate dialogue, identify solutions, and give recommendations before matters go to Council, who of course have all decision-making powers. As the TOR does not include these specifics, we are afraid that the committee will be seen as merely a rubber stamp defined by what it can't do, not what it can. On October 8th, we emailed administration, I did on behalf of the NSN, asking that the draft TOR be shared with us and the TPNA for input before finalization, a small but meaningful test of commitment of collaboration. But our request was ignored, though unusual, we will acknowledge. This silence told us what we feared, that our perspectives will likely have no place, even on the committee that we have worked so hard to get established. Committee composition is also critical. Residents fought hard to get this committee, and it must not be undermined by biased selection, as it is hard to trust that the staff who've repeatedly dismissed public voices will now decide who represents them. So we ask that at least one councillor from the ward directly affected by the encampment be included, and that no appointees from council are made that have conflicts of interest regarding housing or addiction services, including councillors who have dismissed residents' concerns in the press or in special interest group videos, will destroy trust before the EAC even begins, and it is clear they have no intention of listening to our side of the dynamic problem. Selection matters. Administration's choices will indicate whether they intend to give the EAC a voice or just tie us up in debates behind closed doors. The EAC is not the place for representatives of social agencies who already have a seat at the table and a voice on the other encampment committee. These people have repeatedly attempted to manipulate public sentiment, to vilify and negate the legitimate concerns from the community, and their voices already dominate the conversation. We need new perspective, not the same ones on repeat. We also ask the CAO reconsider your choice of staff liaison. The Director of Housing has publicly stated that the EAC is not a priority, and that position undermines the confidence in the committee before it even starts. The committee needs staff who are collaborative, respectful, and committed to fair representation, not reluctant participants intending on minimizing meaningful progress. And finally, regarding the DEIJ framework, compassion must cut both ways. A fair DEIJ statement should have included a paragraph acknowledging that encampments have real, measurable impacts on the surrounding community, on safety, property, small businesses, and the well-being of children. A fair DEIJ approach must balance the dignity and rights of the unhoused with equal rights for housed residents to security, safety, and stability. Education of the unhoused must include skill development and preparation for a successful transition to housing, including compliance with bylaws and social responsibilities, like following all of the bylaws as written.
That's time. Thank you. Next speaker is Larry Hutchins. On deck is Mary Lou Mushink.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. I am before you tonight to speak on item 16A, the Encampment Advisory Committee Terms of Reference. The administration has done a very good job on the proposed terms of reference, and I applaud them for doing it in a relatively short period of time. The committee will be a reasonable size with a good mix of interest groups on it. The different skill sets should lead to lively and informed discussion. Even with all of its good points, there is a matter left unaddressed that needs to be spoken about. That is the potential participation of ROC missions on the committee. Most certainly, their expertise and knowledge would be an asset to the understanding that this issue, the understanding that is needed to care for this issue. The problem is that they are contracted by the municipality to help with CK's homelessness situation. This would mean that they should be considered staff by the proposed terms of reference. Furthermore, one of ROC's staff members listed on their website is also a municipality staff member. This intertwining of staff makes the case stronger for including ROC in the staff category. If ROC desires to be a part of the committee, then it would be prudent to increase the number of staff positions on the committee to 3 and use it to include ROC. There would be many benefits to their inclusion this way. It fosters the partnership between the municipality and ROC. It helps to improve ROC's profile in the community, and it fits with the municipality's goal of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. Therefore, I request that Council make a space for ROC in the staff category of the Encampment Advisory Committee. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Next speaker is Mary Lou Mushink. On deck is Karen Cumming.
Mayor Caniff, Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. While the terms of reference for the Encampment Advisory Committee is likely not tabled for this evening's discussions, we do have some points we'd like you to consider going forward in the terms of reference. Encampments have become a constant and pressing issue in our society today. Their profound impact on the citizens in this community is undeniable. Conversations continue among all stakeholders, the unhoused themselves, residents, businesses, and politicians alike. The strain on our public services, the use of tax dollars, and the effects on health and safety, not only for the unhoused, but especially for our most vulnerable, including our children, cannot be ignored. Yet we are all expected to coexist, live in balance, and remain compliant within these challenging circumstances. It is precisely for these reasons that strong efforts were made to establish the Encampment Advisory Committee. Thank you to Council for listening, acting, and improving this initiative as a meaningful step forward to review, consult, and create lasting solutions. Let's ensure that the terms of reference clearly defines what the EAC can do and what it must do to ensure our work aligns with the shared goal of upholding the dignity and safety of unhoused individuals while addressing legitimate concerns of council, residents, businesses, and the broader community. Focus here on what we can do in an advisory encampment committee. Mandate and role. That the terms of reference for the advisory committee be amended to include perspectives and participation of residents, families, and business owners, neighboring encampment areas, and to recognize their right to safety, security, and the protection of children in the community spaces. These considerations shall guide the committee's recommendations and advise to council to ensure an inclusive, balanced, and committee-wide approach to public safety and well-being. The committee will review and provide input on any proposed projects, enhancements, and actions related to encampments, ensuring that the potential impacts on nearby residents and businesses are carefully considered before any proposals are submitted to council. All recommendations from the EAC are advisory in nature and subject to council's approval. Focus areas should include the Encampment Advisory Committee will focus on the following priority areas to promote the ethical and effective transition of individuals from encampments to stabilizing housing that includes appropriate and necessary on-site systems including but not limited to addiction and mental health counseling. Should include community collaboration, human-centered solutions, public safety and well-being, service coordination and gaps, communication and transparency, policy systemic recommendations, and monitor and evaluate with time constraints. The composition of the committee should include 2 members of council who represent the ward in which the encampment is located and aware of their own other obligations and do not have any conflicts of interest regarding housing and homelessness. Let the EAC be a successful drive for excellence, where action meets compassion and where together we shape solutions that serve everyone with dignity and respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Karen Cumming. Not here. Okay. Duncan McPherson. Not here. Thank you. We'll now move on to the next item for deputations. Item 17A, motion of Councillor Finn regarding unwilling host of the IESO wind energy procurements in Chatham-Kent. First speaker is Lauren Aziz. On deck is Louis Rush.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Aziz, and I live in rural Chatham-Kent. I'm here tonight once again to ask you to take a strong, permanent position to declare Chatham-Kent an unwilling host to any future wind turbine projects. Residents should not have to come back meeting after meeting fighting the same battle. Our message has been consistent and clear. We do not want any more wind turbines in our municipality. At your last meeting, Council discussed that the process set out by the provincial government does not allow you to know at these early stages whether residents will be kept safe. That's the important truth. It shows you recognize that the approval system is deeply flawed. If you can't be certain about the health, environment, and water impacts before saying yes, then that alone should be enough reason to stop these projects from moving forward. People across Ontario, including right here in Chatham-Kent, continue to experience sleep loss, stress, and health issues connected to wind turbine noise and vibrations. Meanwhile, our local environment is at risk. Birds, bats, and other wildlife are being affected, and valuable farmland is being lost under massive cement pads and access roads. Developers talk about clean energy, but they don't talk about the long-term environmental damages these installations cause. If Council cannot say with confidence that these projects are safe for our people and animals and land, then we shouldn't accept any more of them. At the last meeting, I spoke about how rural residents are already underserved, and overlooked. And that argument still stands. In Muirkirk, for example, we have no trash pickup, limited road maintenance, no water or gas lines, and no nearby fire hall or library. Yet, we're the ones being asked to live beside industrial turbines that offer no direct benefit to us. Many residents, myself included, were never contacted by developers about nearby projects, even when we fell within the proposed areas. That lack of communication and respect shows exactly why we don't trust the process and why we're asking you to protect us from it. Since attending the last meeting, I've grown increasingly frustrated with the process and the lack of attentive listening from some council members. As a teacher in the elementary system, I spend every day teaching students about active listening, respect, and the importance of hearing others' perspectives. I want to sincerely thank the council members who have demonstrated those same qualities, and I ask that all members do so moving forward, not just for me, but for everybody. Just like you, we take time out of our lives to be here. We're here because we care deeply about our community and our future. We simply ask that our concerns be listened to and with the same respect and attention that we would give each of you. I also listened closely to some of the responses from council members when residents have shared their experience, both in person and on email. Too often, those responses felt very unempathetic, focused only on their own experiences with turbines rather than the lived experience of those suffering because of them. I'm genuinely grateful that some of you may not have experienced negative impacts firsthand. But as you've heard countless times from others, many residents have, and those impacts have been life-altering in deeply negative ways. Just because something doesn't happen to you doesn't mean it's not real. As elected representatives, you have a duty to listen and to consider the voices of all residents, especially those that have been harmed. Council has already admitted that the current system does not give you the tools to fully protect residents. So tonight, I'm asking you to take action once and for all. Please declare Chatham-Kent an unwilling host to all future wind turbine projects so that we as residents don't have to keep coming back to fight the same issue again and again. Protect our health, our farmland, our wildlife, and our rural way of life, and show us that this council stands with its residents, both rural and urban, by putting our well-being first. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Louis Rush. On deck is Morse Strait.
Mayor and Council. Amy Finn put forward that Chatham-Kent would become an unwilling host for wind energy procurement for the future. That is what was asked for. That's what it means. Other jurisdictions, of which there are many, have dealt with this very issue. Unwilling host means exactly what it says. We do not want a maybe, such as is being presented as to the motion in the general or other comments as listed in number 8 as stated. Assuming that municipal support resolutions will continue to be a requirement for the future of ISO RFPs, Council would have the opportunity to consider any future proposed wind projects on their own merit, should any come forward, just as Council did at October the 6th, 25 meeting. This suggests to Council to pass the unwilling host, to not pass the unwilling host, because you could vote it down anytime in the future. Stop it now. The aquifer is not going to change now or later. As rural residents, we do not want to be experiments with new design that is not going to work. As farmers and residential owners, we are not willing to take the risk of permanent damage to our rural water supply being permanently destroyed. Everyone knows about Dover and North Chatham Township destroyed water supply. The Blenheim area also, where there's wind power, has the same water issues as Dover and North Chatham that were brought forward to the municipality, also were dismissed because of no scientific evidence that the problems were caused by the wind system. The water changed within a couple of days or less after the installation of this project. Some wells have never recovered for any use. Other Chatham-Kent residents have also paid thousands of dollars for water filter systems to be able to use the water. Some of these residents will not even drink that water. Meanwhile, Chatham-Kent and the willing hosts collect contract monies at the expense of their neighbors. So while we're on that discussion of who is a winner, who's a loser, let's look at the fairness of those who are paying the price for these projects. In fairness, the contract funds coming to the municipality from the wind turbine projects should be channeled to Dover, North Chatham-Kent, and the Blenheim area. Anyone in Chatham-Kent who had no problems before the installation of the turbines should have new municipal water infrastructure and municipal water supplied to them with monies coming in from the project at no cost to the agriculture or residential owners. Number 7, as stipulated in administration response, notice of motion should not have been considered in any budget until it was fully approved. For many in our farming community, projects are being put on hold because of setbacks of possible water contamination and unknown health effects, both human and livestock. Their science says everything is fine. Some in other wind project areas have been forced to move their personal locations and their livestock operations, especially dairy. Both livestock and human health have been affected as a result of turbines without any compensation. These new contracts should be different. They must hold the wind turbine projects liable for water issues. What has happened in the past, the wind projects often go broke and the owners can go bankrupt. This leaves the property owner with all the issues at their personal expense. In the future contracts, if this is what Chatham-Kent wishes, we will hold the municipality liable for water issues, in particular because it's clear that history repeats itself. Chatham-Kent is an unwilling host. Nothing else is required. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Morse for Straight. On deck is Derek Melinek.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Morris First Straight, and I want to personally thank all the councilors who voted against the 2 proposed wind turbine project at the October 6th council meeting. That 13-5 vote told a story, not just to myself, but to many others, that our voices and concerns truly matter. It showed that which councilors genuinely stand in the corner of the residents and who would have been impacted the most. Most of you were willing to stand up for the people who live and work here and for the land and the resource that sustain us. That vote gave our community a real sense of hope and pride. If that vote reflects where your hearts are, then declaring Chatham-Kent an unwilling host for any future wind turbine project, the next step is very clear. Let's add Chatham-Kent to the 159 other municipalities that have already taken the stand to say no. On the October 6th council meeting, the support from the community was overwhelming. Every room in this building was full, upstairs, downstairs, even outside. What truly made it remarkable is who showed up. Rural residents, farmers, and families who stopped their harvest in the busiest time of year just to make sure their voices were heard. When farmers shut down their combines and attend a council meeting, it's because the issue truly matters. It's more than turbines, it's about our future. I'm a 4th-generation farmer, and I live on my family's farm on the land of Tour and Line. Excuse me. I've always believed that if you work hard and care for the land, it will give back to you. But that only holds true when the people making the decisions about the land care for it and give it the respect it deserves. Our farm is a home of beef cattle and depend on healthy, clean, sustainable water source. But that sense of security becomes harder to hold on to when I see our skyline filling up with turbines and our drinking water put at risk. Our farmland is being treated like an industrial zone instead of a living soil that feeds the cities. Now I'd like to acknowledge something very important. I know that Chatham-Kent is facing financial pressures, and much of that pressure comes from the cost of affordable housing initiative. I also understand the revenue from signing a deal on more turbine projects may help with this pressure. But I'd like to be clear, I have a deep empathy for people in our community who are struggling to find housing, and for the homeowners in this town who are feeling the weight of the homelessness in their neighborhoods. These are real human issues that deserve real long-term solutions, but we cannot afford to fix one problem by potentially creating another. There are more responsible, creative ways to support affordable housing without sacrificing our farmland or our environment. Once this land is damaged or industrialized, we cannot get it back. When you make this next decision, I ask you to think about your own family, your children, and your grandchildren, and the legacy you'll leave behind them. Because decades from now, when these turbines are left to decay in the sky, it won't be up to the companies or even the decision makers here in front of me today to clean up this mess. It'll be my generation looking after it for a sustainable way to decommission these towers. This municipality has already done more than its fair share for so-called green energy, with over 550 turbines spinning over our rural landscape and still unresolved water quality issues in North Kent. And other municipalities have already stood up to protect their people and their land. Chatham-Kent deserves that same protection. Declaring Chatham-Kent as an unwilling host isn't just about saying no to progress. It's about saying yes to accountability, stewardship, and the kind of leadership that thinks in generations, not election cycles. Last I checked, this municipality's core values include trust, honesty, and integrity. I hope your vote reflects those values. Let's stand together for our land, our people, and our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Derek Melnick, and on deck is Margaret Ozzies.
Good evening, Mayor Caniff and members of council. Before I begin, I want to thank Councillor Amy Finn for her continued service to the people of Chatham-Kent, first as a police officer and now as a councillor. In both roles, she has worked to protect this community, and this motion continues that same commitment to safety and integrity. I'm here tonight to express my full support for Councillor Finn's motion to declare Chatham-Kent an unwilling host to future wind projects. Before addressing the motion itself, though, I want to talk about administration. The staff report recommends no further action, and at the previous meeting, they'd called this a completely political decision. If that's true, then administration should stay out of it. Residents didn't elect bureaucrats, they elected you. And this decision belongs to council and to the people you represent. On October 6th, council made the right choice when it voted against the EDF and capstone turbine proposals. This motion isn't about reopening that debate, it's about making sure we never have to fight it again. It's about protecting rural residents from going through this same exhausting battle every few years. Some say that joining the list of over 150 unwilling host municipalities doesn't mean anything because it isn't legally binding. And that might be true, but it absolutely carries moral weight. It sends a clear message to Queen's Park and to developers that Chatham-Kent is not open for business when it comes to industrial wind. It says this municipality is listening to its people, not outside corporations. Chatham-Kent already has over 400 turbines, one of the highest totals in Ontario. That's more than our share. Meanwhile, the residents of North Kent are still trucking water years later. Their lives have been forever disrupted. Despite independent testing that revealed heavy metals, the province never completed its promised all-hazard study. And now that same government is forcing a landfill expansion on Dresden that no one asked for. Whether it's wind or waste, Chatham-Kent keeps being treated as expendable. During the turbine presentation in October, neither EDF nor Capstone could guarantee that local water sources would remain safe. They relied on models and projections, the same kind that failed our neighbors. When asked about liability, EDF seemed to suggest that only landowners who signed turbine contracts would be protected if their wells were damaged. Maybe I'm mistaken, but that's not very reassuring, because those who bear the most risk, their neighbors, see absolutely no benefit. More than 1,100 residents, mostly rural, signed petitions opposing new wind projects. That's not political theater, that's democracy. These are the people who live beside these projects, who deal with the impacts and who have simply had enough. True leadership means standing up for those people. It means ensuring that the residents who lost their wells have access to clean, reliable water, that they don't have to truck in. It also means exploring renewable alternatives like solar panels on municipal buildings and solar trackers on municipal lands that provide clean energy without harming water, wildlife, or peace of mind. Declaring Chatham-Kent an unwilling host is about accountability, protection, and respect. It's about closing the door on projects that divide neighbors and endanger water and opening the door to solutions that truly serve our community. By supporting this motion, Council will send a strong and lasting message that Chatham-Kent's residents come before developers and that peace, health, and safety of its people are non-negotiable. Thank you.
Next speaker is Margaret Ozzies, and on deck is Jim Griffin.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. My name is Margaret Aziz, and I am here today as a mother and grandmother, a resident of Chatham-Kent, and someone deeply concerned about the long-term health and well-being of our families, our environment, and our farmland. I understand the importance of renewable energy and need to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, but I also believe that the way we pursue clean energy should never come at the expense of human health, wildlife, or the land that sustains us. In Chatham-Kent, we've seen firsthand how industrial wind turbines can have serious, unintended consequences. One of the most troubling issues has been the disturbance of black shale during turbine construction, something we've heard a lot about from many of us. Many residents have reported that their well water has become cloudy or contaminated after turbine installations nearby. Black shale can contain heavy metals, and when it's disturbed and enters the water table, it can pose a real risk of health to the health of families who rely on well water every day. No parent should have to wonder if the water their children drinks is safe. Wind turbines have also had devastating effects on local wildlife, particularly migratory birds and bats. Our region is home to many species that rely on the open fields and skies of Chatham-Kent for their seasonal journeys. The spinning blades of turbines can interfere with bats' sonar navigation, especially at night, leading to fatal collisions. Migratory birds, too, are being lost in large numbers, species that are already struggling due to habitat loss. And there are the health concerns for people living close to turbines. Many residents across Ontario have reported symptoms such as sleep disturbances, headaches, dizziness, and anxiety, often linked to low-frequency noise and infrasound produced by the turbines. While these issues are sometimes dismissed as anecdotal, the lived experiences of families should never be ignored or minimalized. These are our neighbors and our friends, our children, and they deserve to be heard. Finally, I want to speak about our farmland, some of the best in Ontario. Chatham-Kent is known for its rich agricultural land, the heart of our local economy and our food security. Every acre lost to turbine development is an acre that no longer grows food, supports pollinators, or provides for future generations. Once this land is industrialized, it rarely returns to its original state. As a mother, I believe it's our duty to leave this community better and healthier than we found it. I urge Council to take a strong stance as an unwilling host for any further wind projects in Chatham-Kent. Our community has done more than its fair share. It's time to pause, reflect, and put the well-being of our people, our water, and our land first. We all have a sustainable future, but true sustainability means, or we all want a sustainable future, but true sustainability means balance, protecting our people, our water, our wildlife, our farmland, and not sacrificing one for another. Thank you for your time and your service and for listening to the concerns of a mother that loves her community. Thank you.
And the last speaker is Jim Griffin, speaking on item 17D, Built Heritage Official Plan Policy Update.
Good evening, Mayor Caniff, councillors, administration, and staff. As chair of your Municipal Heritage Committee, I'm pleased to tell you tonight that the entire committee is unanimous in its support of the Built Heritage Policy Plan as presented tonight by staff. The committee has been involved throughout the development process from the beginning, and we thank Gabriel Clark for the opportunity to have our input heard and recognized. We are confident that this is a great tool to moving heritage designations forward in Chatham-Kent. The municipality's statement of recognition for heritage in the terms of reference for the Municipal Heritage Committee states, our inheritance of agriculture and cultural and natural landscapes is an important and irreplaceable asset and resource. The conservation of these resources is fundamental to creating community pride and identity and attracting new residents and tourism, all of which have important economic impacts on our community. As well, the benefits from the conservation of our heritage architecture and cultural heritage landscapes occur not only to the present generation, but also to generations in the future. The immediacy of such conservation and heritage planning comes from the fact that, unfortunately, what is not saved and preserved today cannot be saved and preserved tomorrow. Chatham-Kent is rich with cultural and built heritage, and it is the responsibility of all of us to preserve and protect all aspects of this history that we have inherited from the past and not try to erase it or alter it in any way. One can't live anywhere in Chatham-Kent without being close to a property of historical or heritage value, be it a site from the War of 1812, early settlers, Black or Aboriginal history, or the site of a famous invention or other period in history. According to Census Canada 2016 figures, Chatham-Kent has over 5,800 dwellings that are 100+ years old, and that is double the national and provincial averages and triple that of Toronto. And that represents 13.4% of all houses within the municipality. Currently, only 79 of those properties are designated under the Ontario Heritage Act, and another 279 are listed on the Municipal Heritage Register as properties of heritage interest. Based on other municipalities of comparable population, those numbers should be closer to 500 and 1,000 at the very least. There are also many areas throughout CK that qualify as strong candidates for heritage conservation districts, such as a large part of Victoria Avenue, where there are 3 designated and 9 listed properties in the area from McNaughton to Grand Avenue alone, and also the ornamental street light poles on Victoria Avenue are designated. Chatham-Kent is in danger of losing all 279 properties on its heritage register by February 2027 under Bill 23, if the MHC and Council are unable to have them designated before then. We are obligated to protect these properties under the Provincial Planning Statement 2024, which states in part, protected heritage property which may contain built heritage resources or cultural heritage landscapes shall be preserved. The Heritage Committee has been compiling a list of properties from the Heritage Register to consider for designation to add to a list created by a previous Heritage Committee that had approximately 125 properties awaiting designation already on it. One of the benefits of being designated, and probably the most important, is that it protects a property from demolition. And removing a designation from a property with all of its heritage attributes still intact in order to simply sell it quicker or tear it down for a new build is discouraged under the Ontario Heritage Act. The benefits of designation outweigh the negatives, and sometimes it's difficult to dispel all the misinformation about designations that are currently circulating. Having no official heritage planner on staff in CK makes the task of designating properties more challenging for the staff, Municipal Heritage Committee, and Council. But this plan helps provide the necessary tools we all need. I've said this before and I'll keep saying it. Please remember that to designate is a promise to preserve in perpetuity deserving properties for present and future generations, enjoyment and cultural identity, and that repealing a designation destroys and breaks that promise. Thank you. Your Municipal Heritage Committee respectfully recommends the addition of the Built Heritage Policy Plan to the official plan. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the consent agenda. The following reports have been pulled from the consent agenda to be voted on separately. Those are item 16A, the Encampment Advisory Committee, terms of reference, and it's been pulled by Councillor B. McGregor, Councillor Harrigan, and Councillor Jubenville. Item 16B, Councillor Ward Funding Program, recommended changes, pulled by Councillor Sakachi and Councillor Jubenville. Item 17A, the motion of Councillor Finn regarding unwilling host of the IESO wind energy procurements in Chatham-Kent, pulled by Councillor Finn, Councillor C. McGregor, and Councillor Jubenville. Item 17B, revised request for a Canada Post mailing place name, Mitchell's Bay, pulled by Councillor McGrail. And item 17C, the Economic Development and Tourism Services Update 2025 Information Report, pulled by Councillor Story. Therefore, the following reports remain on the consent agenda to be approved in one motion. Item 14A, B, C, D. Item 15A. Item 17D, E, F, and G. And items 18A and B.
Councillor Thompson and Councillor Anderson, can I get you to move the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
And seconded.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
Councillor Story? Councillor Doyle?
Yes.
Councillor Crew? Councillor Crew, are you there? Okay, Councillor Bondi?
I'm here. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can now.
I couldn't find my button. Yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Bondi? Councillor Bondi, are you there? Okay, all votes are in. Motion passes 16-0.
We'll move on to item 16, Chief Administrative Office.
16A, Encampment Advisory Committee Terms of Reference.
Councillor B. McGregor and Councillor Harrigan, can I each put on the floor, please?
So moved.
And so seconded.
Councillor B. McGregor?
Yeah, didn't have many comments. Appreciate the challenge in putting this together quickly and responding to community concern. Having seen a number of advisory committees in the past, I know it's often challenging, specifically when designing the components of the committee, the composition of the committee, and look forward to seeing the feedback once that committee starts and how that will evolve.
Councillor Harrigan, followed by Councillor Juneville.
Thank you. I guess just the only comment that I would give is that in addition to what Councillor B. McGregor said, I really do see this advisory committee as being kind of one tool amongst many of engagement. We received a deputation about a different item in the Heritage Committee where the chair of that committee came up and added additional context and support. And so I think this is not the only way that individuals can engage with councillors and council on these issues. This is a formal way, certainly, and these terms of reference capture that. But I just really wanted to emphasize that I see it as one of many opportunities people can engage on issues such as encampments and housing.
Councillor Juneville.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff, and I will echo the previous two councillors on the quick turnaround on this terms of reference. Just after reading some of the deputations and listening to them, I'm just asking on behalf of the people who presented, is there any way that we could add at least one of the two council members represent the current ward directly affected by an encampment? Could we add that as a friendly amendment? And perhaps vote on it separately if other councillors don't want it included?
It's friendly, that's fine.
Okay.
Friendly.
I think it's for the remainder of this term of council. They may have
Right. Okay. Sure, yeah. And the other point that was brought forward was that council members have no conflicts of interest in housing or addictions services. Can that be added as well?
Dave, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to point out that there is a provision in the terms of reference that already say, conflict of interest is something that the committee members can't undertake. And then also another layer on top of that is that all councillors are bound by the Council Code of Conduct.
Okay.
And of course, the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. And so, I think there's already, the reason that it isn't laid out in every single document is because it's already covered by other policies.
Makes sense.
And so I think that's really
Okay.
the answer from administration on that.
Sure, understood. And in a general sense, some of the concerns, generally speaking, were that they felt that there wasn't going to be equal collaboration from the residents near the encampment. I'm just not sure if there's any way to be more inclusive to feedback from them, or for them to have more of a voice on the in the terms of reference. I don't know if that's kind of vague or.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ultimately, this is council's decision, right? Our recommendation was when council brought the motion forward, create some terms of reference so you can absolutely see what it looks like.
Sure.
And council had actually laid out, 5 different groups, if you will, that were going to be included. So
Okay.
that Northside residents group is part of it, and also business members from that. And so those are specifically laid out in the council motion. And so we've reflected that in order to try to operationalize this.
Okay.
But certainly it's council's decision if you feel like some other group isn't represented to add that. We were really responding to what the existing motion was of those 5 groups that were supposed to be reflected.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll just leave it as is, and, I mean, if things need to be, it could be a work in progress. If things need to be revised as we move along, I'm sure we could bring it back to council, so that's all, thank you.
Councillor Bondi?
Oh, there we go. Sorry. Mayor Cantor, can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, sorry. And thank you for calling upon me, but obviously I can't figure out this microphone thing. But I think I just really have more of a comment. I think this is a great start. I appreciate staff's efforts on bringing forward the terms of reference to get the ball rolling on this. It was something that a lot of people put a lot of work into. And to address the very, well thought out deputations, this is a starting point. So this isn't the end. We've had committees of council for decades, and they've evolved and they've changed. And I'm sure this one will evolve and change, but I think we're off to a good start. It's not perfect. It likely never will be perfect, but we're getting there. And I would just like to thank the people that brought the deputations and the hundreds of people that have reached out over the last, 6 months or so, addressing this. And I think this is a very positive move forward. I was at a conference last week regarding ending homelessness in Canada. It was a national conference. And this was really a big part of it, that there should be communication between staff, elected officials, and people that are directly affected. And this is what we're doing. We're bringing all of us, hopefully, together to come to some sort of understanding, sharing ideas. And again, like I had mentioned at the meeting when this motion was first discussed, this is going to engage conversation, not statements. And that's what I think is really the goal. And I think that will be achieved by this committee, is that there will be a conversation, not a conversation at council where it's a deputation and then there's no questions or answers. This will be a conversation. So it's not perfect, but it's a great start. And I appreciate it. And thank you very much.
Any other questions? Mover, second, or anything you want to add? Okay. With that, we'll put it to vote.
Bondi?
Yes.
Councillor Crew?
Just clarification, were there 2 separate motions?
No, it's all in one. I can read it for you, for the people online. The Encampment Advisory Committee Terms of Reference be approved with the amendment that one of the councillors appointed be from the ward affected by the current encampment.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Doyle?
Yes.
And Councillor Story?
Yes.
All votes are in. Motion passes 17-0. Moving on to 16B, Councillor Ward Funding Program Recommended Changes.
Councillor Sakachi and Councillor Anderson, can you put on the floor, please?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I'd actually want to put on the floor with the following amendment, that for the next term of council, 26 to 2030, in the years 2027 to 2030, the current Hydro One councillor funding approach be maintained, except the $75,000 of Hydro One councillor ward funding surplus funds resulting from the change to the composition of council be distributed equally between the 8 rural councillors, wards 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and B, that the mayor sounds councillor-supported community culture and recreation projects be managed through a quarterly intake process.
Councillor Anderson?
Yep, I'm happy to second that.
Okay. Councillor Sakachi?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I'll keep my comments relatively short. We all know that the will of council was to reduce the representation for our our rural residents. This is significantly going to affect the rural residents that in regards to the award funding. And as we see, the surplus is going to be recommended for different purposes. I know that Chatham Ward 6, which is obviously a wide multitude of wards now, have gained a little bit more, but there's some areas, for instance, in the Thamesville area that have reduced their councillors. And then in our area, if you talk about Ridgetown in Blenheim, we went from 5 rural councillors to now 2 combined. So this is essentially taking significant funds from the community. And I understand if we're talking about population that there can be some discretions around, the population aspects. When you're talking about a rural area, you're talking about a very widespread area that might have a wide multitude of parks for projects, different user groups in different small communities. So, if I understand once again that the Ward 6 or the new several wards have, like I said, maintained a little bit more population, but I really would like to see the funds still distributed equally through the communities that have lost rural representation, as that is something that I think is very important. So I'll end my comments there. Look forward to discussion and go from there.
Councillor Anderson, followed by Councillor Juvenville.
Thank you. I'll leave my comments for the final discussion. Thanks.
Councillor Juvenville, followed by Councillor B. McGregor.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I like this. This is good. Thank you, Councillor Sakachi. I will support that. My question is more about the Councillor Ward funding program. I'm just wondering, moving forward, I'm wondering if we can have a more fulsome reporting system to council and maybe to the public. I'd like to see what's going on in other wards. So I don't know what's going on in, say, Wallaceburg or in Blenheim. So I just thought if there's any way moving forward to have maybe a biannual report of what's actually going on in all of our wards so that we can see all the wonderful benefits that this ward funding is doing all across Chatham-Kent. Thank you.
Councillor B. McGregor, followed by Councillor C. McGregor.
Thank you. I appreciate that suggestion from Councillor Juvenville. I was going to ask that we could get a report back on how the funds have been used this term of council. I know that they have to be committed by April of this year, I believe. And I think it would be helpful to see what that impact looked like over the past 4 years. And I think that would also be interesting to see where those projects occurred within different wards as well. I know seeing the request comes through, I'm a Ward 6 councillor. I've contributed to organizations that do work in all of Chatham-Kent. And I'm sure councillors in other wards have contributed to organizations that do work in Ward 6. I understand the spirit of the motion. Where I see some concern is that I don't think we should value people more in one area that they live based on someone else. So the old program that put the funds out equally by councillor already only gave 35% of the total programming money to Ward 6, which has about 50% of the population. It was already a program that underfunded one group of people just because of where they live. The new program would still underfund the individuals living in the old Ward 6, which would be the new 6, 7, 8. They would be getting 43% of that program funding. So we're already saying that because they're a little more urban, they shouldn't get as much money. So the new councillor boundary system does a better job of representing people, one councillor for the same number of people. The funding should follow that same model, in my view. And overall, the funding, does get moved around based on projects not existing within these boundaries. But I think if we send the message that you don't matter as much because you live in one area versus the other, that's inequitable at its core. So I don't think it's an appropriate way to go. And I would point specifically to the Ward 3 issue, that there was 3 councillors in Ward 3 representing Blenheim and a portion of South Chatham. Those South Chatham people are now in a new ward. So reallocating the funding that they should have received to a different area doesn't represent their needs either. So they're losing that representation of having 3 people represent them. They're getting 2 now, and then they're going to have some of that funding removed from the ward funding program. So I think the fairest way to do it, we have a program that we accepted, a new ward boundary map that's based on representation by population. It still is not perfect, flowing the funds that respect representation by population in the system we accepted is the fairest way to go about it in my mind. If there needs to be a transition period where we increase funding to a program because there's some projects that are important that are still need to be done, that makes sense. If there's a reimagining of the program, I think that makes sense as well. And I think that moving some of those funds to supporting the strategic priorities in the recreation and culture master plans, that makes sense as well. Thank you.
Councillor C. McGregor, followed by Councillor McGrail.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing the report and the recommendations that are coming through with the amendments. I do have one concern, and it's off of page 6 on the hybrid approach, and it discusses to streamline the process and that it be recommended to be accepted through an annual online intake process versus a rolling and continuous intake. I understand the difficulties of the rolling continuous intake, but I have a problem with it being an annual intake. I know there's been projects within my own community that come up within a committee or things that I have supported that might not have been in place at an annual point in time. So if they're going to change the intake allocation, I would at least like to see it biannually or quarterly and maybe have it by set dates that way so that it's maybe not continuous, but I would like to see the frequency more than annually. So I don't know how to do that or if it needs to be, if it's a friendly amendment to.
It's in B, Councillor McGregor. I agree with you 100% that we should be doing it more regularly and a little easier.
Okay,
So
I should have
for
read that one
for
more.
administration
Quarterly
purposes.
intake, sorry, I missed that part. So, but other than that, you know, I fully agree, and I'm happy to see the changes, and especially with the changes in the wards. I think those are very good changes to go there. So, and thank you for adding that. I guess I didn't read right through the bottom, so apologize for that. So, thank you.
Councillor Finn.
Thank you, Worship.
Councillor McGrail and Councillor Finn, sorry.
Thank you. Through you, the Mayor. My question is in regards to our community host agreement. This still stay within that signed agreement that we created 4 years ago, and this is not going to change that, or we need to amend that? No, it's all good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dave Taylor, Deputy CAO. Yes, this motion would still keep the remaining provisions of the Hydro One Council Reward Funding Program in place, and that was specifically limited to the funding agreement that it has to be used for culture and recreation programs, so that would continue on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Finn.
Thank you, Worship. I was asked earlier in an email about the full-time position for the community grants person. Where is that funded from now?
Through the Mayor, thank you, Councillor Finn, for the question. So that position was funded 50% from the Together CK Reserve and 50% from the Hydro One Reserve. So it's not coming from the actual council award funding, it's from the reserves for that.
What happens if in the future we don't have money in the reserves for that?
That's a contract position, so it's currently secured until the end of 27 in the budget, and then it would be done.
Okay.
Councillor Story.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I think I always want to be clear on the amendment as well as what is being recommended. If I'm looking at the report correctly, for the next term, every councillor will be getting $10,000 per year for the 4 years. And the amendment would state that an additional if I'm understanding correctly, the $75,000 in the amendment would be divided by the 8 councillors in the rural areas, and divided by 8, that's 9,375. So that would mean that the 8 rural ward councillors will be getting $19,375, and then the urban councillors in wards, apologies, Chatham is 6, 7, and 8. It would be 10, but it would stay at 10,000. So the 8 rural would be getting 19,375, and then the Chatham wards will be getting 10,000. Is that correct? Thank you.
Through the Mayor, Councillor Story, thank you for the question. The amended motion on the floor is that the 9,375 would be distributed as extra in the current model, so in addition to the 25,000 that each councillor currently receives.
Okay, sorry, I didn't, okay. So those three.
So the current 25, on the floor is not to change the current model. So everyone gets their 25, but the $75,000 difference is split between the rural councillors, of which there were 8, and to your point, 9,375 in addition to the 25,000 that they already have.
For this term only.
Yeah, for the 26, exactly. 26 to 30.
Term,
Yes.
26 to 30, everyone would get 10,000.
Yes. No. Everyone is going to stay at 25,000. So as a Chatham award,
You would have 25,000 continuing for that time period, but the rural councillors would receive an additional 9,375 on top of their 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that I was looking at the chart.
Yeah, I think we've passed the chart because we now have a new motion on the floor to correct that and to basically status quo. Yes.
And was not, is okay, I understand. So
Yes,
that would
yes.
then be, okay, I should just not look at that then.
Yeah.
Okay, so the current term would, I'm so sorry, I might be getting the better of my brain. So the current term, we are staying the same.
Correct.
Plus the 9,375 to the ward councillors for the remainder of the term, this term.
No, this doesn't come into effect until 2027.
So for the rest of, yes, for the rest of this year, and you really have up until April 2026 to make your commitments for the current term of council, because then you have that 6-month moratorium ahead of the election. But starting then in 2027 or after the next election effectively, each councillor will have 25,000 in Ward 6, but all the rural councillors will have whatever, 34,375.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Kenneth.
Okay, I was going to make some comments, but Councillor Beamer just has a clarifying question.
Just a clarifying question. We keep saying rural and urban, but Wallsburg is included as a rural ward here, but Wallsburg is an urban area. I mean, Blenheim, Tilbury, Wheatley, those are urban places. So I'm just not sure what definition we're using as rural and urban wards. Because certainly there's a couple wards that are now completely rural, like I think it's Ward 4. But most of the wards are a mixture of rural. So what we're really saying,
We can
just to
strike
be
the
clear,
word
is just-
rule out. We can strike the word rule out if that's going to be a problem.
So just to be clear, what the motion is any extra money goes everywhere but Chatham. So just to be clear.
Just to be clear, Chatham never lost any money. There's several wards. All this funding that's up here isn't new money. This is all money that's been taken all out of those areas that have been affected the most.
So
I just
the
thought
people that
for
live in South
equitable,
Chatham that have
it'd
3
be,
councillors that now have 2. So the clarity is it's rural and urban. There is people that live in Chatham that have been redistributed in wards and their funding doesn't go with them, it goes somewhere else. So when we keep saying who's impacted and who's not, I'm just saying that we're using rural and urban in a way that doesn't represent the wards.
I've got a solution I'd like to put out. I see both sides of the argument. There's good reason for both, and I look at the very positive impacts that this funding has had in all wards. What I'm going to suggest that we break it out, so 1, and then A, B, and C. But Councillor Sakachi and Councillor Anderson, what I'd like to do is say all wards get 9,375. The difference comes out of the Hydro One funds. So we're not arguing. I don't want to put value on any ward. all wards deserve the money. So this way, that money gets redistributed, but it's fairly done, given that Chatham and Wallaceburg is both increased in size. I think, can I suggest that? And then what we can do is vote to say that you have one saying the funding approach stays the same, that counselor support community culture recreation project be managed through a quarterly intake, and then you can do A or B, or unless you're okay with that being a friendly amendment to say everybody gets $9,325, the difference coming out of the Hydro One funds for the next 4 years. I'll leave it to you as a mover.
My goal wasn't to increase the funds. My goal was simply to redistribute the money amongst the communities that have been most affected. But at the end of the day, it's the will of council. Councillor McGregor can say time after time about the rule and whatever you want to call ward divide, but basically almost every single meeting when we have deputations, it comes up. So this isn't just people at the horseshoe talking about this divide. This is people that think in the community. So if we're going to tell the I won't use the rule, but people in the community that between Ward 2 and Ward 3, you're basically taking out 3 councillors and all their funding that they have. And now you're going to have less advocation, and you're going to also have less funds for your thing. I just thought this was an equitable approach to address those things, recognizing that, sure, there was a little bit of a addition in Ward 6, but there's still 6 councillors in Ward 6, and there's still the same amount of funds. So at the end of the day, I don't want to talk negative about a positive program like this. All it was an effort to redistribute the funds, the communities that were the most affected by the loss of the advocation of rural councillors.
So I guess to answer my question, would you be willing to put in at least a B to say, so council can decide to say, do we want to allocate? I get it that we all have our own opinions on whether there should be an extra 200, but you do have that option to say it's either going to be the 9,375 to 8 wards, or to the 5 wards, or 9,375 extra.
I think I'm comfortable with how it is, Mayor Caniff, and if it fails, then I'm comfortable moving the report as the money is just is delivered to a surplus.
Okay. Councillor Harrigan.
Thank you. I maybe have a less politically charged question. So the surplus funds that this amendment speaks to would take, if I'm reading it right, that $75,000 Hydro One surplus, it was recommended to go into a reserve for life cycle needs for projects that we already committed to. How then would we pay for the life cycle needs of projects that we already committed to if we take that $75,000 out and distribute it to do more projects? Tax base is what I'm assuming, or life cycle reserves for other things that we've already can't afford to pay for.
Through the mayor, thank you, Councillor Harrigan. I chatted with the CFO on the way over, and his response was tax base.
Okay, so I just wanted to call. But maybe there's another comment.
Yeah, if I can. So it can come from tax base, but don't forget there's the other part of the Hydro One funds that are not part of the ward funding allocation. So it could potentially come from that as well. So it's not just a tax base. There's 2 options, and when we get closer to the end of the program, that's probably when Council of the Day will make that decision.
Right, and then I guess the other option is it's in life cycle. We have life cycle reserves, so maybe we have to upkeep. We have more stuff, so we always have to just upkeep them and make decisions. So some of the new stuff that we have now may not be it. Okay. I guess I just don't understand. Like I understand that the recommended was to give everybody 10,000, almost like as a hybrid approach to move towards everything going into the recreation master plan, which I am supportive of. But in this motion, I guess the question is, maybe to the mover, is why wouldn't we just keep it at $25,000 per counselor? Because it's not going to be us here, it's going to be a whole new council. Who's to say there's not going to be 80% of a new, right? Like it's, in some ways, I feel like we're kind of shorting certain councillors on next council in terms of the influence and their ability to contribute to their community. So.
Well, I think the past recommendations were approved based on ward funding. So when it says ward funding, I would assume that that ward funding was allocated to those wards. Some wards were significantly affected by the reduction, which is what I'm trying to say. So all it was trying to keep those funds relatively, well, it won't be similar. It'll still be significantly reduced, but most of those funds generated through the entire, and Councillor McGregor can shake his head and say it's not reducing it, but it definitely is reducing it. Last I checked, 5 people times 25,000 is a lot less than 3 people times 25,000, but that's just my match on a back of a piece of a paper here, so.
Right, and so I appreciate that, but what I would also say is that when we went through the ward boundary review, part of the reason that we changed some of those geographic areas was because of population growth in some areas and population decline or stagnation in other areas, and we wanted to make sure that the representation that we're giving to people is reflective of that. And so in some ways too, this is kind of the first time that we're feeling the ache of transitioning to the ward funding, but I'm not certain having inequitable distributions of funds that councillors have is the right way to go. But I appreciate what this is saying. I'm gonna stop. I'm struggling to process that here. There's lots to think about. Sorry.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. You want me to start with my motion first? I would like to move that A, that we've been talking about in Councillor Scotchy's motion, that we refer that to the new term of council. And if I get a seconder, I'll make some comments.
Councillor Finn.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Appreciate all the commentary tonight. This is a difficult one to talk about. And I guess, I don't know if that's the first push it to the new council that we've heard this term, but I think this is an important one to do that. I appreciate Councillor McGregor's comments, appreciate Councillor Scotchy's comments, everyone's comments on this, but why don't we let the new term of council discuss this, what they do with the extra funds. You know, they're going to be the new council that's going to have the new boundaries, is going to have the new composition. You know, they're going to be living that. This council is not going to be doing that. We decided to implement it, but the new term of council will have this decision to make, I think. I think number one in Councillor Scotchy's motion is great. I think we should keep it the same number. And B up there, I think we should definitely do that as well, the quarterly intake, that makes sense. But yeah, I think we should move A to the next term of council. Thanks.
Councillor Finn, any comments on that?
I couldn't have said it better.
Anybody else comments on the deferral or the referring A to next council? Seeing none, we'll put that to vote then. Councillor Juneville.
Could I just add the C, reflecting what I was asking about having like a biannual report? Do I need to put that in here?
I think, sorry, Audrey, thank you. Audrey had his comments about that.
Okay.
Through the Mayor, thank you, Councillor Jubenville, for that. So Council approved in December 2024 that we would bring forward a biannual update. So twice a year we'd bring forward an update. So we did bring forward an update in July this year that provided detail on projects that were funded for that time period. The plan is to bring another report then in January this year with projects that were funded for that time period. And in response to Councillor Brock McGregor's comment earlier, we can certainly do a roll-up for everything that has happened for this term of council to give you that insight as well. But I think I would encourage you to think about sticking with the biannual update. I mean, we're happy to provide.
Yeah, biannual is fine. That's good.
Yeah.
Just if we could include all of the wards, that would be great to see what's going on across the municipality.
No problem.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, with that, seeing no other questions, we'll put this to vote of whether we defer this to the next council.
Councillor Crew?
Just voting on Councillor Hall's.
Sorry, yes, sorry, I should read that for you. That the 75,000 of the Hydro One Councillor Ward funding surplus funds resulting from the changes of the composition of council be redistributed equally between 8 rural council wards be referred to the next term of council. So we're just doing the A part, being referred back to the new term of council.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Bondi?
Yes.
Councillor Story?
Yes.
And Councillor Doyle?
Yes.
All votes from Councillor in, and the motion passes 14-3.
Yes, so we'll go back to the other two. So for the one, and I guess one, it becomes A instead of B. Final comments from the seconder and the, okay. Seeing no other questions, then we'll put this to vote.
Councillor Doyle?
Yes.
Councillor Story?
Yes.
Councillor Bondi?
Yes.
And Councillor Crew?
Yes.
All votes are in. Motion passes 16-1.
We'll move on to item 17, development services.
17A, motion by Councillor Finn regarding unwilling host of the IESO wind energy procurements in Chatham-Kent. Just to let council and the public know that this requires a motion to reconsider to put it on the floor because we have voted on this once within the council term. It requires a 2/3 vote, and because there's 17 members of council present, it would require 12 to be able to put it back on the floor. Thank you.
Councillor Finn and Councillor Juvendale, can I get you to move this, please?
Happy to move it.
And so seconded.
Councillor Finn, these are comments on just whether the reconsideration, well, I guess there's, so specific to just that part, not the debate of what.
Yes. I was in favor previously allowing the farmers to have the choice. Learning what I have over the last couple months with regards to the aquifer in East Kent, and knowing what's happened in other similar areas, I think it's quite important that we bring this up for discussion.
Councillor Juvendale?
I agree. I think we should at least have the opportunity to vote on it again. A lot of new details have come forward that council might have reconsideration on this, so I hope everyone will vote for us to vote on it again. Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, we'll put it to vote.
Councillors on the line, this is for the reconsideration. Councillor Doyle? Councillor Story?
Yes.
Councillor Bondi?
Yes.
And Councillor Crew? No. Sorry?
No.
Thank you.
In. Motion passes 11-6. Sorry, it fails 11-6. As I said, we needed 12 to move it on. 17B, revised request for Canada Post mailing place name, Mitchell's Bay. This, in addition, is a motion to reconsider, and it also requires a 2/3 vote, which is at least 12 councillors in order to put it on the floor.
Councillor McGrail and Councillor Juvendale, can you put this on the floor, please?
Yes, I'll do that.
And seconded.
Did you want to go through the 2/3 again?
Oh, sorry, this also requires a motion to reconsider due to us voting on this a few meetings ago. There has been a change, and in order to discuss it, we require a 2/3 vote, which is 12 councillors in order to put this back on the floor. Thank you.
Okay, so any discussion regarding Councillor McGrail?
Thank you. Real quick, through you, Mayor Canna. Through more consultation with the community, what I'm asking is to bring it back on the floor so then we can just redefine the boundary of what Mitchell's Bay and that postal code will be. So I'd appreciate to bring it back here and get this done for Mitchell's Bay.
Seeing no other questions, we'll put it to vote.
Councillor Story?
Yes.
This is for the reconsideration, sorry.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Counselor Bondi,
Yes.
Counselor Crew,
Yes.
and Counselor Doyle.
Yes.
All votes are in. Motion passes 17-0, and we can put this back on the floor, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Juville, can you put this on the floor, please?
I most certainly will.
And seconded?
Councillor McGrail?
Just as I stated before, this is just a little maintenance on the boundary. And going forward, this is something that Mitchell's Bay does want. And I hope that we can all, again, put our votes behind this and hopefully get this ball rolling for them. Thank you.
Councillor Juville, anything to add?
Nothing really, just I think the people of Mitchell's Bay will appreciate having their own identity and their own postal code, so this will be good.
With that, seeing no other questions, we'll put it to vote.
Counselor Story,
Yes.
Counselor Bondi,
Yes.
Counselor Crew,
Yes.
and Counselor Doyle.
Yes.
All votes are in. Motion passes 17-0. The last report this evening is 17C, Economic Development and Tourism Services Update 2025. Information report.
Councillor Story had questions?
Mayor Caniff, I wanted to ask a couple of questions. I think there might be a few items in this report that might be helpful for the wider public to hear in terms of some of the programs available. I really enjoyed reading this report. So thanks to Stuart and Shannon and the whole team in ECDEV and Tourism for all the work. This was a very detailed report, and I really appreciated getting to see all of that. I would add one item, Stuart. You were at I know you write these reports ahead of time, but I wanted to put a plug in for you attending the AMO Trade and Tariff Forum last week as well, which was great to see. But just a couple quick questions and then a final comment. Could someone, I mean, the first might be for Shannon actually. In the report, you mentioned 119 inbound tourism requests. Could you clarify what that means? Thanks.
Thank you, Your Worship. Shannon, are you online with us?
She is online. She was sending me a message, but go ahead, Shannon. Oh, we can't hear you. I can see you talking, but we can't hear you.
Let me read that.
There you go. There you go. We can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. My apologies. Through you, Mayor Council, thank you very much for the question. What I was referring to is when it comes to an inbound tourism request, we did have 119 in the October 1st of 2024 to October 1st, 2025, representing a 37% increase. And that's in people accessing our services year over year. So what we mean by that is these are people who are calling into tourism or emailing our department, specifically asking for possibly itineraries. We often supply itineraries for people who are traveling into Chatham-Kent, looking for places to stay, looking for things to do. This also could be somebody from the community reaching out to us to attend an event. So we did see an increase. So when we say inbound tourism requests, those are things that have been asked of us in tourism for the visitor or the resident.
Okay, that's great. So folks who have questions about local itineraries and tourism sites to visit, they can give you a call or an email and you'll give them the expert advice on and suggestions. That's great.
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. Second quick question. I had a request or a question from a resident about the tourism brochure racks. They really appreciated seeing those across the municipality at the municipal service centers. Is that something that any tourism operator can use for their brochures or only for municipal use? Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Council or Mayor Caniff. Yes, the tourism displays that we have throughout the municipality are at libraries and our municipal service centers, as you've noted. There are 23 of them. They are specifically meant for tourism in terms of our Chatham-Kent product. So we supply the tourism guide that goes there. We have laminated brochures that have a QR code that go to specific places on our website, and it is meant for tourism. We do have some businesses that we work with specifically that are on there that are offering a tourism product. We haven't gone down the road of offering community brochure opportunities only because there is so little room, and if we got into a situation where we had to start denying somebody, we would really hate to see that. Instead, we encourage people to reach out to us, and we will try to work with you on how we can help you promote your tourism offering.
Okay, thank you. So the best way to just point, if folks have a brochure or something that they might want to distribute more widely, just to point them in your direction, and you can work with them on some possible solutions to see what would work best.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the question. We can distribute, we can in sometimes send those brochures throughout the municipality if that's what they're looking for, but also beyond that as well. Because of our RTO being so huge, our regional tourism organization area, we can often distribute those brochures to Windsor, London, Oxford County, Norfolk County to make sure that we're hitting the right groups. Our hoteliers often host those as well. So there are a lot of different options, and we'd be happy to help.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. That's great to know, and I think that might clear up some questions for folks who might want to look into that. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you for the questions.
Last but not least, likely for Stuart, I noticed in the business activities there was a foodpreneur program, which I had not heard of, and I would love to learn more about that. Could you give us a quick explanation, or maybe that's a Shannon question, but I think that might be something the community would be interested in learning more about. So for such an agriculturally rich community, I think the food piece is something that might be worth sharing a little more about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Through you to Councillor Story. Foodpreneur program is something we run through the small business. Just a quick make it easy, Uncle Stewie's Cookies, and I do it at home, and I want to expand that to go from more than 10 places that I sell today. It's an application, $1,500 application to get involved with the program. You have to show $50,000 a year in revenue, again, be in business for over 1 year, and have 10 current clients. And then what you do is they set you up with a group of experts to talk to you about how to scale up your business that you're doing from home to hopefully get you to a place where you're selling it in 100 different places. But they do everything from food safety, from marketing, labeling, barcoding, recipe help, packaging. So all of that is the expert advice that you're going to get. It's a 4-month program. And if you're successful, you do your business plan at the end of Foodpreneur. Through our starter company program, we offer the business a $5,000 grant to help them out with their business as well. So it's a great program. We've been averaging about 2 per year since the program started.
Thank you, Stuart. I was not aware of that one. It sounds like a great opportunity for people who are looking to expand that or launch the business in that time or in that field. Last question. First, I want to thank you for all the help you've given me in my work with FCM and my AMO Trade Talk. You and your office have provided me with a lot of great information, especially on the trade and tariff side. So I really want to thank you and your team for providing that information for me. It's been very helpful in my meetings with other levels of government. But I did want to mention, since this is the first meeting we've had since the Enbridge news that they may be reconsidering their real estate holdings in Chatham, I was wondering if you could give us an update on that. Obviously, there's a fair bit of concern about that conversation, that announcement, and are we considering any possible economic assessment reviews of that if, for example, the 50 Kyle Drive location was divested and those operations were moved out? Could you possibly give us a little bit more information on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Through Councillor Story, I might rely on Mayor Caniff for a little bit on this, but I think it's important to remember that every large company out there goes through this exercise all the time, and they're just being responsible to their shareholders. And I have a lot of friends and family that work over there. This isn't the first time that they've gone through this exercise, nor do I believe it will be their last. I think, again, we have to be mindful of the fact that the mayor did reach out to the CEO of Enbridge. I'll take him at his word that he said that Chatham-Kent Enbridge will still have a significant presence in Chatham-Kent until we feel otherwise. Maybe I'll let Mayor Caniff comment on that, but I will say this anecdotally. Again, I got a lot of family and friends that work there, and Enbridge is on a 3 days at home, 2 days at work. Many of the people that I said, even if there is some change, and I would imagine there very well could be some change, they intend to drive, if they did have an office in London in 2 or 3 years, they don't tend to pick up stakes in Chatham-Kent and go down to a higher cost operating or higher cost community. The people that I've talked to, that was their comment to me, but that's all anecdotal. I don't have anything, but Mayor Caniff, maybe your conversation with the CEO.
No, yeah, this came about a week and a half ago, and there's some discussions coming out, and I know that Enbridge really hasn't put out a media release. It's something internally that happens with them. But I've been working with senior management, and as well, I reached out to the CEO, Greg Ebel. I had the privilege of working with him when he was president of Union Gas a number of years ago. So we had a good discussion for about 20 minutes or so, and in part of that, he said that there will always be a significant presence in Chatham-Kent. He knows what Enbridge means to this community, and certainly, there'll always be changes. There's been changes the last 7 years since the merger. There'll be changes after that. But when he looked at and said there'll be significant presence here, we have a growing and diverse economy, and certainly Enbridge forms a big part of that, and we'll continue working with them to ensure that there's a significant presence, and whatever we can do as a community to help make that happen, we will do that.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I have some more questions about that, but I don't want to necessarily divert attention from this report. Would it be okay with you if we discuss that further in non-agenda business, or would you prefer to discuss that now? I don't want to distract from the report because I think it's a good one, but I just wanted to raise that piece. I have a couple other questions.
Okay, if you got a couple other questions, go ahead. It's just that you're past your 5 minutes, so I'll give you grace on these two more questions, quick questions.
Till the end of the meeting, if that's okay with you. I see Councillor Bondi has his hand up, so I don't want to use up any more time on this one.
All right.
Thank you, Shannon and Stuart, for the report.
Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mary Caniff. On a much lighter note, concerning the report, I would just like to comment on TJ Stables, which I am a part of, is part of the program, the tourism program, and they're very appreciative. And I'm not saying that just to express their appreciation, but what I would like to express, and I'm sure this is very common with every other organization, business, NGO that you guys deal with, not only do they appreciate the support given to them by the municipality, and in TJ Stables' case, it's you help out with some flyers, I think, or I don't know what you really do, but they're very keen on promoting Chatham-Kent when they go outside of Chatham-Kent. So it's a two-way street. So I just want to make mention that economic development is not just offering resources to these organizations and businesses, but these businesses are reciprocating. They're giving back to the municipality by promoting Chatham-Kent when they go outside of Chatham-Kent. So it's a great partnership, and sometimes that can be a little difficult with anything really, but it's really worked well at TJ Stables, which is a real gem in our community, of course. Well, I'm a little biased because kind of a cowboy type, or I tell myself, nobody else does, but it is a two-way street, and the appreciation that you offer to these organizations, speaking only from TJ Stables, is appreciated to the point that they do go out and they do their job of promoting Chatham-Kent. So it works for all of us, and it's money well spent. And I'm always the last guy to say that, unfortunately, but this is really money well spent, and I hope we continue it. And it's been a great success. So thank you.
Okay, seeing no other comments about that, we'll move on to notice of motion. I'll go, there's 4 of them. I'll go Councillor Wright, Councillor Sakachi, Councillor McGrail, Councillor Sakachi.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I, Councillor John Wright, hereby provide notice that I will bring follow motion forward for discussion and voting on at the November 17, 2025 council meeting. Whereas members of council have received reports of damage to the municipal property and related activity arising from ATV use on the Costco Trail in Chatham-Kent, and where the municipal seeks to encourage the lawful and safeful use of the trails and prepare damage to the municipal properties by trail users. Therefore, be it resolved that administration consult with Integris and Chatham-Kent Police Service regarding opinions to address and prevent damage and improper use of the Costco trails, and return to council with information concerning measures to address this issue in the beginning of 2026.
Councillor Sakachi, followed by Councillor McGrail.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I, Councillor Anthony Sakachi, here provide notice. I'll be bringing the following motion for discussion on November 17th, for voting and discussion on November 17th. Whereas the municipality has adopted a road safety action plans which prioritizes the safety of all road users and emphasizes a focus on road safety in school areas. And whereas the Blenheim District High School and Harrow-Trolley Public Schools are located on an urban arterial road where traffic calming measures are not recommended or may not be effective, be it resolved that staff conduct a road safety assessment on Chatham Street in the area of Blenheim District High School and Harrow-Trolley and report back to council with any potential recommendations.
Councillor McGrail, followed by Councillor Sakachi.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Caniff. I, Councillor Jamie McGrail, hereby provide notice that I will bring the following motion forward for discussion and voting. Hopefully, November 17th that will work. Council meeting. Whereas Chatham-Kent has been in a long legal battle with CP Rail due to CP's refusal to pay its fair share towards Drainage Act costs. And whereas the contribution of railways towards their fair share of railway costs is an important issue for the agricultural community in Chatham-Kent and across Ontario. And whereas Roma, the Kent Federation of Agriculture, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, and the Ontario Ministry of the Attorney General and other impacted municipalities have supported Chatham-Kent's fight for our agricultural community, including by retaining lawyers and submitting evidence to a recent drainage referee court hearing. Now, therefore, Chatham-Kent Council requests that the Mayor's Office send a letter of thanks to Roma, the Kent Federation of Agriculture, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, and the Ontario Ministry of the Attorney General, and those municipalities that took part in the drainage referee court hearing against CP Rail. And the municipality administration be directed to bring forward a recognition of those same groups at a future council meeting to reflect the importance of this continued fight to protect vital agricultural infrastructure across Ontario. Thank you.
Councillor Sakachi.
I, Councillor Anthony Sakachi, here provide the following notice for voting discussion on the November 17th meeting of council. Whereas the current ice allocation policy is outdated, and whereas many associations have had fluctuations in registration which could impact historical data and needs, be it resolved that administration consult with associations and user groups and review the current processes and provide council with a report that includes potential recommendations and possible improvements.
Okay, we'll go on to communication items. Councillor Juvenville, you had item 2A and 4F you wanted to talk about.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. At a recent St. Clair Region Conservation Authority meeting, there was a resolution that was passed, and Plimpton, Wyoming has put their own resolution to request that the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority reconsider their decision. So their council reviewed the staff report dated August 28 regarding the proposed hearing guidelines that take place at the Region Authority. And while council acknowledges that the intent of the guidelines is to align with the legislative requirements of the Conservation Authorities Act, council, being Plimpton, Wyoming, is concerned with the exclusion of elected municipal representatives from participating in the hearing committee. This exclusion, as outlined in section 3.1 of the guidelines regarding apprehension of bias, effectively prevents elected officials from representing their constituents in matters that may directly impact their communities. Council believes this undermines the democratic process and stifles the community's voice in critical decisions related to land use, environmental protection, and property rights, which basically would mean that myself and Councillor Hall would not be able to vote on any issues at a hearing that involved the municipality of Chatham-Kent, which I think is very anti-democratic. It didn't pass unanimously. There were a few of us that were opposed to it. So I was wondering, I don't want to bring this forward, but I'm wondering if one of my colleagues would bring this forward to send a similar email to the Region Authority.
Councillor C. McGregor?
Thank you, and yes, in light of this information that's here, I fully understand Councillor Jubenville and Councillor Hall not wanting to be the ones to bring this forward, but I would like to, if allowed at this point, I would like to make a motion that a resolution be submitted that supports the town of Plimpton, Wyoming's motion, and that let's see, I had it here right in front of me. So that we formally express council's objection to the updated hearing guidelines adopted by the St. Clair Conservation Authority.
Councillor McGrail, you second that?
I definitely will.
Any other questions regarding that? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. And you want 4F as well?
Yes, I was just wondering if we could tag on to this. It's basically a resolution about public safety requirements to protect our communities. Basically, it's just to reinforce bail and sentencing reform. And I would just basically like to send a replica of this resolution, but obviously taking out Halton Region and enter it into as Chatham-Kent. It's just asking to reinforce bail and sentencing reform to the federal government and amending the Criminal Code of Canada.
Councillor Crew, can I get you to second that?
Wondering if Councillor Jubenville, I don't have it in front of me. I just closed it out, but I'm wondering if this would be something that we would just send. Judy, help me. I think that we would just support this community's motion.
Sorry, Judy, can you help us here?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, what we do normally when there's a letter like this, we would send a letter on Chatham-Kent letterhead saying that we support the resolution of Halton.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, Councillor Jubenville, would you be supportive of that?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Any questions regarding that? Anyone opposed to that motion? Seeing none. Motion passes. Councillor Jubenville and Councillor Harrigan, can I get you to move the rest of the communication items, please?
I so move.
And seconded.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Non-agenda business. Councillor McGrail and Jubenville, you wanted to talk a little bit about Eric. Okay, no. Okay, Councillor Jubenville. Sorry, I had both names.
That's okay, no problem. I'll speak on behalf of both of us. So recently, the federal impact assessment was denied on the property that York One owns on Irish School Road. So I'm just wondering if, Dave, if you could speak to where that leaves us and a bit of an update on it. And before you speak, there was one person who reached out to me today. Again, he's speaking about Bill 197 and asking me why we can't default to that. So maybe you could include that as well in what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. Maybe I'll deal with the Bill 197. This is the bill that allows for councils to essentially veto landfills that are within their community or within a certain distance of their community. We have spoken to this before in this council chambers, but just as a bit of a reminder on that, it appears the province is taking the position that because there was some historic land use planning approvals here, it doesn't appear that they're suggesting there's a new landfill. But I do want to confirm we're continuing to look at that avenue, and is there any sort of benefit to that? But it's one of these pieces to where that was structured for kind of a brand new landfill, and that's kind of the barrier that we have there. But talking about just as a bit of background for those folks that maybe haven't been following along as closely in the public to what the avenue taken by Dresden Cared and then also by the municipality was, we brought an application to the federal government. There's an agency called the Impact Assessment Agency. They have the ability to designate projects like this or other projects that may impact federal jurisdiction. And so Dresden Cared initiated a request asking for that designation, and Chatham-Kent also sent in a similar request, essentially saying this proposal, because of the exemptions that the province provided under the Environmental Protection Act, this proposal has a real prospect of impacting on areas of federal jurisdiction, which are primarily environmental issues and also impacts to Indigenous persons. And so we made a submission to the federal government. We also did follow-up information exchange with them. They came back to us with questions. We submitted more information. All of that has been posted on Chatham-Kent's Let's Talk page if anybody wants to take a look at that. Unfortunately, just about a week ago, we got a letter back from the president of the Impact Assessment Act agency saying they would not be designating this project, and what that means is that we're not getting that study by the federal government, which is really a shame. We're disappointed with that. Along with that came a analysis and a rationale for why they didn't make that designation, and largely what it was is kind of their summary was that there were other laws and processes that would address these issues. With respect to the president of the Impact Assessment Agency, we don't agree with that. Obviously, we didn't because we made the submission. Council directed us to make that submission. We think that particularly because of the exemptions for this proposal that the province did in the legislature, really a lot of these potential impacts, particularly environmental and Indigenous impacts, they just won't be adequately addressed in these other processes. But it's a discretionary function as to whether or not they're going to make this designation and make this additional study. So unfortunately, we weren't successful on that. But it's not the end of the fight. You know, that was just one path we were going down to try to get some additional study on the issue to really highlight what I think we all know would be an impact, a devastating impact on Dresden. And so another point I just wanted to make was that we've consistently pointed out that from the municipal perspective, York 1 has to get land use planning approvals. They have to come to this chamber and ask for land use planning approvals in order to move forward with their project. Our director of planning has said that to York 1. We've written to them. We haven't heard back from them until actually this federal process. They actually put in writing that they don't believe that they are subject. York 1 wrote down that they don't believe that they're subject to land use planning approvals. And so we're pushing that issue. We're going to try to continue to advance that because we really don't understand what their basis is for suggesting that that's the case. They had some historic land use planning approvals from years and years and years ago, but what they're looking to do is expand that, you know, significantly to the point that you know, it needs a new kind of land use approval, right? It needs an assessment of whether or not that use should be permitted. And with that, we would have the ability to get some studies, not to the level that probably this proposal needs with environmental assessments, but to some level of study on some of the impacts that it could have before a decision is made. I've mentioned this before, I'd like to mention again, you know, council isn't the final decision maker on there. Those decisions can ultimately be appealed to the Ontario Lands Tribunal, but the important piece is we believe they need to be coming here for discussion with council to try to justify this. And so I know obviously the result on the federal process wasn't what we were hoping for. I also know, you know, that process and being unsuccessful there probably raised a lot of the same kinds of questions in citizens' minds about things like operations and what's going to happen if the worst comes true here. we wish we had answers for you. I know all of administration wishes that we had answers about what's this operation going to look like, even the details of what York One is proposing. We don't have any of that. We haven't had new applications submitted to us. We haven't seen them. Unfortunately, with the exemption that the province gave under the environmental protection legislation, we're not even really clear 100% what the process is going to be. And so we need to continue to push for that, to be getting more information, and that'll be something that we absolutely continue to push. And unfortunately, as I said, as much as I wish we had answers for the community that are wondering what's happening so close to their town, we just don't have those answers. And maybe just as an additional point, I'd ask Michael Dubin to add anything further.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Actually, I'm going to bounce it back to Mr. Taylor, but as you can imagine, obviously there was a response, excuse me, submitted by York One. There was a particular inaccuracy that was reported a few times, and maybe if Mr. Taylor can speak to that, we did try to set the record straight, at least with the feds, but if Mr. Taylor can explain that, I think it's important for members of the community, particularly Dresden, to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. And we did try to include this in some public communications as well. One of the really unfortunate things that York One suggested in some of their materials to the federal government, they suggested they've been regularly meeting with the municipality. They'd suggested that the municipality was supportive of this project. Both of those are inaccurate. There has not been regular meetings. In fact, we haven't heard from them since they actually put through the applications to the provincial government that we actually saw what the scope of this application was. We've finally now had a reach out from their planner. Their planning consultant has asked for a meeting, but we haven't heard directly from the principals of York One. No discussions really about even what they're looking for. All we've heard about is through these public forums. And so the fact that they would suggest that to the federal government, very much inaccurate. And also the idea that they would try to frame, one general discussion as some sort of form of support, really unfortunate as well. So again, we'll continue working however we can to defend Dresden and try to stop this proposal.
Okay, thank you. I've also been asked by, and I'm sure Councillor McGrail has as well, is there any, prospective opportunity that we could have another town hall, or just, I know we don't have any information, but maybe in a month from now, we might have a little bit more, just to keep everybody in Dresden, in the loop of what's happening and what the status is of everything. Is this something that we could consider?
Maybe I can address that. So as Mr. Taylor mentioned, we do have a meeting coming up in the middle of November. Again, not with the principals of York One, but the planners have, for the very first time, reached out to me. I've been here 3 years. First time somebody reached out. So we have a meeting set up in the middle of November. I also know there was a meeting with someone from York One and the Walpole First Nations. So perhaps after that meeting in November, where we have a little bit of news, at least if the planner can answer any of our questions, then at that point, perhaps we can look at whether or not a public meeting is in order. I think the challenge with a public meeting is we just don't, as Mr. Taylor said, we just don't have a lot of questions. The process is one we don't understand because it's a new process that hasn't occurred before. And I don't want to get everybody together and not be able to answer some questions. But let's reevaluate that in a couple of weeks. Maybe we'll have a little bit of news. And the other thing we'll do is we'll reach out to the First Nations because they may want to report on the discussion that they've had with the rest of the community. I can't commit them to that without asking them, but we'll certainly have that discussion with them.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Councillor McGrail, followed by Councillor Story.
Thank you. So I just want to take a moment to highlight an upcoming documentary that is coming out of Dresden from Mr. Eric Philpott, and it will be called Dresden 1957. And it's going to tell the forgotten story of the Dresden excavation collapse of 1957 that took the lives of 6 Dutch immigrant workers. So I'm excited. It's something, in our history, like the Dresden tragedy is an important piece of local history that was almost lost forever. This film will change that, but they're looking for support in upcoming months. Our history teaches us something about ourselves. Yes, it can teach some hard lessons, but a story like this also shows our finest qualities, like the courage and compassion of Dresden volunteers who, at the risk of their lives, would not stop digging until the last body was recovered 38 hours later. Our children should grow up knowing stories like these, and we are all richer for knowing something of our history. So I look forward to that coming to realization. Thank you.
Councillor Story, followed by Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I appreciate the opportunity to bring this back for a little bit more discussion. Regarding Enbridge, you had mentioned that they had spoken to you about keeping a significant presence in the community. And I know when I heard the news a little over a week and a half ago, obviously I was deeply concerning. It's in Ward 6 that I represent, but obviously there's Enbridge employees that live in every ward across Chatham-Kent, and to consider an environment or a future when Enbridge is not in Chatham-Kent in a meaningful way was a little bit distressing. And I know based on the feedback I got from residents, there is a lot of concern in the community right now. So I'm wondering, when Enbridge did say that they were going to keep a significant presence, well, they also say that they are going to consolidate in London in their note to staff. So I'm not sure what those conversations look like right now, but would it be possible to provide a little more clarity on what when we say significant presence, does that mean the infrastructure? Because certainly Enbridge has a very large amount of infrastructure for pipelines in the community, but does that also mean the jobs? Is it possible for you to provide a little more clarity on that and what those conversations have looked like?
Certainly, I've had several conversations, and the reason why Enbridge even started talking about it was there were a lot of rumors going around internally. So they released a memo to the staff clarifying that, and they talked about various things they're looking at. And certainly, as Mr. McFadden pointed out, they're always looking at things. But to address your question, the significant presence relates to the employees at 50 Kyle Drive. The infrastructure is always going to be here. The pipelines are always going to be here. All the various things that are linked to this community directly that service this community are going to be here. We were referring to the jobs at 50 Kyle Drive.
Okay, so right now, I know obviously, private companies need to make the decisions in their best interest, and I totally respect that. We are in a very challenging business environment for a lot of sectors right now with the trade and tariffs. I think my concern is that reading this message from Enbridge, it makes it sound quite certain that they will be moving to London and consolidating their offices. But that is not your understanding based on your direct conversations with them. And I'm just wondering maybe if there's a way to communicate that to the community, because I can appreciate that obviously rumors can run wild and we don't want that to happen. So any opportunities we have to clear that up, I do worry about the ongoing impact of that and what we might be able to do. Is there something that we can do as a municipality to make sure we can preserve those several hundred jobs, what those next steps might be? And is there a role for us to play as a municipality to essentially get it in writing that those several hundred jobs are going to remain in Chatham-Kent?
Well, I guess from an industry perspective, any industry in Chatham-Kent is free to move, or they're free to come here. So we need to do, as far as the municipality goes, make it as attractive as possible for them to stay here. So all the things we do each and every day here at council, every decision we make makes it more attractive or less attractive to business to come here. So when we talk about all the things about public art and right through to taxation, to all these things, they influence where people want to go. So I can't sit and promise you today that there's not going to be jobs leaving there or any other business or industry for that matter. But we need to make it as attractive, and we will do everything we can to work with Enbridge to ensure that it's a very positive business climate for them to be here and as we move forward. So I can't sit here today and say, no, there won't be any job disruption there or anywhere else. That's a promise I can't make. That's a promise Enbridge can't make. But as they move forward, they know the significance of Enbridge, the presence here in Chatham-Kent, and they're very cognizant of that. and move forward. They will plan accordingly to make sure they have a significant presence in Chatham-Kent.
Okay, I totally agree with you, Mayor Caniff. I think I totally agree with that position, and I thank you for sharing that. And if it's possible, as you are having those communications with Enbridge, if you would be open to sharing that with council moving forward, so we can pass that on, or however method of communication you see fit, so that we can share that with our constituents as well. I think that would put a lot of minds at ease, but I appreciate the opportunity to discuss that further. Thank you.
And the reason, just to clarify, the reason that I share that comment that he made is he gave me permission to say that. I didn't just pull it out and say, I'm going to go say this. He said, yes, you can tell the media, you can tell council, you can tell that we will have a significant presence. So that's why I'm repeating it. The other things, those are other details and stuff that we're going to work out. I can't go and record the conversation for 20 minutes and play it back. I mean, that's just like any other business we talk to. But that was very clear message that he had.
Thank you. I would thank you very much for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Okay. And Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Great to see everyone, or pretty much everybody in the room today, wearing a poppy on their jacket or their shirt tonight. Obviously, all of our legions are launching their poppy campaigns, I think, all across Chatham-Kent. Councillor McGregor and I were happy to be at a flag raising to launch the campaign in Wallaceburg last week. So happy to see that. And obviously next, this will be happening before our next council meeting, but next Tuesday is November 11th. And I think everyone on council is going to be at a different ceremony across Chatham-Kent. There's tons happening all across Chatham-Kent, as they do every year. So yeah, encourage everyone to go out and support our veterans and our legions on Remembrance Day. And now that I said that, I'm comfortable saying the next thing, which is the 56th Wallaceburg Knights of Columbus, or Knights of Pythias Christmas Parade is taking place on Saturday, November 15th, starting at 5:30 p.m. And this year's theme is Christmas around the world. So hopefully see everyone there as well. Thanks.
Councillor Juvenville.
I just want to tag on to what Councillor McGrail said about the Dresden 1957 tragedy that happened. The gentleman who's producing this, Eric Philmont, he will be our artist feature on December 1. So we're going to hear what he has to say about this tragedy that happened in Dresden firsthand on December 1st.
Also, to follow along with Councillor Hall's talking about, we're looking forward to 4 new crosswalks being installed. I think they started today in 4 other communities. Wallaceburg was the first one. Dresden, Erio, and Tilbury, I believe, are the 4 that are going in, and they should all be in by Remembrance Day. So that'll make 6 different communities, and I hope that more communities step up, more legions, because we're in direct collaboration with each and every legion in the community to make that happen. So excited about that, and as well, there's something new going to be added at the Cenotaph in Chatham as well. So we're excited that I see the uptick of people getting to these events in Chatham-Kent. Last year, the one in Chatham was record-setting as far as the number of people that came out, and I heard a number of other communities as well. I wish I could be at all of them, but they all happen at the same time. So that's why, as council, we divide and conquer. So I encourage everyone to get out for that hour on November 11th and support the people that made our country so great. So thank you. Okay, we'll move on to reading of the bylaws. First and second, Councillor Allen and Councillor McGrail. Can I get you to move them, please?
Happy to move it.
And I will second.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Councillor C. McGregor and Councillor Hall. Third and final reading.
I'll move.
Seconded.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Resolution of Councillor Hall and Councillor B. McGregor. Can I get you to wrap it up, please?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I move that Chatham-Kent Council adjourn to its next meeting to be held on Monday, November 17th, 2025, and that Chatham-Kent Council authorize itself to meet in closed session on that day to discuss any matters permitted by the Municipal Act.
So seconded.
Anyone opposed to wrapping up at 8:20? Seeing nobody, have a great night, everyone.